Hey everyone, Marco Schwartz here. In this video, I will share with you an interview that I did recently with the CEO of the peer-to-peer lending platform Income Marketplace. And we discussed about peer-to-peer lending, of course, about his platform, about the whole field in general in terms of portfolio relation, and also we discussed about their plans for the future, for example, about the loan originators and more things that they want to add to the platform. So right now, without any further ado, let's go into the interview of the CEO of Income Marketplace.
All right. So yeah, thank you so much for coming to this interview. If you could start by introducing yourself and also introducing your company.
Okay, my name is Kimmo, CEO and founder of Income Marketplace. So I'm originally from Finland, lived in Estonia for 14 years already. Been an entrepreneur pretty much all my life, mostly in fintech, in consumer lending before, SME lending, both in emerging markets and developed markets. And really that's been most of my adult career. So I know lending pretty much as good as anyone. And in 2020, start of 2020, came the idea, let's do something different. Let's take the learnings from my career. Let's build it into a investment platform. You know, we saw these different platforms having trouble after COVID. We thought that maybe the structures there are something that could be done better. And really, that's where the idea of Income came. Let's take the learnings of how to secure the investments and then bring them to the reach of everyone. So Income Marketplace is a marketplace for investing in loans. And we don't need originate loans ourselves. We cooperate with different lending companies around the world.
Okay, great. So let's talk about peer-to-peer lending. How do you feel that it's different or better than other ways to invest money, like real estate, like investing on the stock market?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm personally an investor as well, so that's where the idea came. Of course, I was investing on the existing platforms, saw the problems, was hit by some of those problems. So really, I have experience from those. The same with stock market. I also invest in cryptos, real estate. So I have quite a diversified portfolio as such. Why I do like the loans as an asset class is really that it's relatively high yield. Okay, you can't compare it today to crypto, but okay, it's a stable asset class. And if you put money in November into loans, or if you put it into crypto or stocks, you would be down a lot with crypto or stocks today. With loans, you would have still earned the 10 or 12%, which seems to be the average yield at the moment. So that's one really good thing about it. It doesn't fluctuate so much. The other thing is it amortizes fast, right? So I keep a lot of my spare cash in loans, actually, on Income. So waiting for that moment to buy Bitcoin or waiting for that moment to buy into stocks, it keeps on earning the 12%. And it's really fast to withdraw, because once you stop your auto invest strategies, then effectively the money starts coming back to you. And of course, maybe the last thing is it provides you cash flow. So you get the interest every month, you get the cash every month, the principal part. So you can adjust how much you have in there. So these things is why I personally like loans as an investment class, also as a parking place for money. And that's why I think it's a good place to have in your portfolio, or a good asset.
Okay, awesome. So now let's talk more about your company, Income Marketplace. As you know, there are many peer-to-peer lending platforms out there, and you said that you actually created, and you actually created your company because you saw that some things were lacking on other platforms. So can you tell us more about why you think Income Marketplace is better or different than other peer-to-peer lending platforms?
Yeah, there's a lot of. You're right. There's a whole lot of competition. After we started, we also heard that, are you crazy? Why would you start something in a place that is so crowded? Some started also at the same time with us, and I think if we would have just started something exactly as a copy, then probably we would have had trouble. But we really thought, and maybe we would not even started then, but we thought we really have a good idea on using the loan books as a security, meaning effectively that when you invest in the loans, then through income, then the loan book of the loan originator, which is placed on income, which is investable, it acts as a security towards those investments. So we put quite a bit of work on this aspect, how to secure the investment. Because what we saw in 2020 happening on many platforms, which was kind of puzzling for investors, they thought, okay, we invested in loans, but now that the loan originator went bust, we actually are losing money. I thought I owned that loan. And it turned out that for one reason or another, without speculation, that wasn't the case. And we saw massive losses, from on certain platforms. So we thought that this is the thing that needs to be fixed. Buyback guarantee was an awesome feature, that protected you, or a buyback obligation that protected you from the borrower default. But nobody had really thought, okay, then what happens when the loan originator defaults? And effectively, it can happen. And I mean, we saw A-rated loan companies go bust, C-rated, rated low companies. But so it can happen for a multitude of reasons, and there was no protection for this. And then in my past career, when we were raising funding for these loan companies, there was a certain way of either pledging the loan book or using it as a collateral otherwise, that we thought that if we bring it to this investment world in P2P, then we'll have a pretty good combination. And what really sets us apart, actually, if you think about it, is the difference of, and I'll simplify a bit, is the skin in the game versus junior share concept that we have. So on all other platforms that I've found so far, we're talking about skin in the game. So it effectively means that the loan company holds a certain part of the loan in their own books. And that's supposed to act as an alignment tool. So the hypothesis is the loan company holds a small piece, and they would be then making good loans. So it's an alignment tool. But if something goes wrong, they lose the 5% or 10%, and the investors lose the 90% or 95% in same proportion. On income, it's not skin in the game, it's junior share. And that means that it's junior to the investor's investment. And effectively, that means that, let's say we have a junior share, and we have significantly higher junior shares than any of the other platforms have even skin in the games, because we base it on a certain analysis of what's the cash value of the loan book. So effectively, we would say we have 30% junior share, 70% is investable by the investors. If anything goes wrong in terms of the LO being defaulted, then the junior share acts as a first loss buffer. So the LO part gets lost first fully, and only then the investors would lose money. So this buffer is the key defining factor of income versus others. If I would simplify the whole thinking. And we built the technology, we built the structures, we built the legal agreements, everything around this.
All right, awesome. Let's now move to some questions that my audience had, because I sent an email, I asked them what they wanted to know about your platform, and three main questions came up. The first one is still about risk, and people would like to know more about your loan originators, especially how you actually chose them to be on your platform. Why those and not others, basically?
Okay, we started with 4 loan originators pretty much, or 3, 4. Those were pretty much the ones that I could connect with. I mean, some people I knew from my career before. So I said, hey, we're launching a platform. We have a new concept. Would you guys like to be onboarded? So it was a sort of a low-hanging fruit of connecting with the people that I knew from past life. We did the same due diligence. We did the same security structures. So there was no preferential treatment in that sense, even if I knew the people. The same junior share applies. So if you think about it, the loan book security is always designed to cover investors one-to-one to recover their principal and interest. So we did the due Those were the guys where we started with. And then from then on, we've pretty much connected with a lot of different fintech professionals from around the world. They've been sourcing us leads. Loan companies have come to us directly. Latest we onboarded Dana Rupiah, which is a large Indonesian fintech. They're also listing on Bonster and I think Mintos as well, if I can, mention other names. But a very established, a large one. They came to us, said, "Hey, we'd like to cooperate." So we did the due diligence. We onboarded them. Vivus Mexico came, just another very established one, came to us, "Hey, we would like to cooperate with you guys. You have an interesting concept." And they onboarded. So where we started really was the ones that I knew, or kind of the first layer. I was saying, "Hey, would you guys like to come and try it out? Because we have to start from somewhere." And then really, I mean, the word has spread pretty fast. We have a massive pipeline of loan originators wanting to join us, and now we're scaling that part of the business on a fully kind of let's call it new loan originators. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So the second question from my audience was more about regulation. So as you said before, that you also created your company based on what you saw in the past on other companies. And a lot of platforms currently are going like more in the being regulated. So for example, some platforms, especially the big ones, are getting some investment brokerage licenses. So what are your plans, or what can you say about your company in this field of regulation?
Regulation, you mean? Well, I mean, Estonia today is not regulated. I mean, we have a crowdfunding regulation, but that applies only to the likes of estate gurus. So they only applied it in the first tier or first tranche to equity crowdfunding and to real estate crowdfunding. This is kind of directly drawn from the European crowdfunding regulation that came into force. The regulator in Estonia didn't have the time to properly look through how to apply that into loan marketplaces, such as us, and that is why we're not regulated today. We've seen the first draft in what that was. I think it was February last year when it was actually given out in Estonia. There's no red flags really. I mean, for us, why we wouldn't be regulated. So effectively, when it becomes available, then we'll apply and get regulated. The regulation as such, it centers around investor protection. So this really, conflict of interest is one thing that is really heavily looked into. And that's a question mark then to these platforms rather who are dealing with related party loan originators or who are funding their own operation. So I'm actually curious to see how they manage to circumvent that conflict of interest issue, because that's it's really a valid concern from the regulator. But in our case, I mean, we don't really have related parties as such. So, we're scaling in a similar fashion as some other large platforms. Because the reason why we chose to cooperate to do the model where we don't originate ourselves, but where we cooperate globally with loan originators was basically because I think it's a faster way to scale. It takes a hell of a lot of time to be able to set up a loan company and then start building it. We rather thought that if we want to build a really good investment platform or a marketplace, we need to choose this model. So really, we'll see what comes of regulation, but investor protection is the main thing. Our goal or the main idea of income actually circles around that. So I don't think we'll really have a problem with it. So everybody says we're welcoming the regulation, but in this case we really are, because that's something that we get asked all the time as well.
Yep. All right. Great. And the last question from my audience was it's pretty general, so feel free to answer as you feel like. So, do you plan to add more loan originators in the future? I've seen people want to know if you plan more diversity in the loan originators.
Yes, we do. I mean, that's like I said before. What we're trying to get to is we try to get to large scale, and that requires us to onboard more loan originators. That's really the main way for us to scale. And I know it's important also for investors. So, like I said, we had Dana Rupiah join us from Indonesia. We had now Vivus Mexico join us from Mexico. We have quite a nice pipeline from Colombia, from Mexico as well, from LATAM. We have some Indonesian loan originators looking to be onboarded. We're looking at some European countries. So I think overall we have identified around 100 prospects, and probably we have around 10 in active due diligence at the moment, in different phases. So the answer is yes. we will aim to a significant amount of originators. Yes.
Okay, great. So now let's stay in the topic of the future. If you could share your thoughts about the field, where the field of peer-to-peer lending going in the coming years. So not especially your company, but more like the field in general. And maybe just to give some thought to the question, like especially in terms maybe of yield, of returns for investors, which is a question that I see coming a lot, like are the yields coming down, like for everyone, like people saw on some platforms. What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, I think probably there's, like you said, there's a whole lot of platforms. So not all of them will succeed. So that's one thing. So there might be some sort of a consolidation. If you look at just the number of platforms, there's only a certain number of, and it's a large number, but there's only a certain number of large, very good loan originators to work with. Those loan originators generally have access, have access to cheaper funding from outside of peer-to-peer. So if you think about it, what is the main thing for the loan company? It's availability of funding, and it is also the price of the funding. And in general, I'd say a normal institutional investor would expect to get 10-ish% from investing into a loan originator that is established, let's say 10, 11, perhaps max 12. And then you would have security on top of it. So something similar to what I was talking before, that you would have the junior share, what they would call an advance rate of probably 80% could be funded by the company, by the institutional, and then the 20% would be funded by then the company itself of each loan. So really, the investors will be competing with the availability of other sources of funding. And I think these rates of 15, 16, and now we saw, funnily enough, with the war in Ukraine, we saw rates going up. I don't know if it was correlated, but we saw rates go up on some of the major platforms. This is probably temporary. It's just to keep investors in. I don't think it's a long-term trend. Because really there's a lot of free capital around, and investors will be competing for the bond with the bond market and with other sources of funding that's available to fintechs or to these LOs. So I'd assume, and that's my projection, is that the yields will go down. Security will be one of the key issues coming in, because it's a trade-off, of course, with the loan companies as well. If they give real security, then the yield has to come down. So I think you will see moderately yields going down, but probably more emphasis is done by platforms on the security part. And that just doesn't mean income. I mean, in general, we see already some major platforms moving into that direction. So those would be probably my two main things. I personally, just as an investor, I'm targeting 10 plus. So I'm happy with 10% yield, but that's my kind of benchmark. Yeah.
So now, still on the future, if you could share any plans for income marketplace. So it could be, as you said, we already covered like loan originators, but maybe you have something you'd like to talk about, like I don't know, a new website or new functions, anything you have in mind.
Yeah, we are doing a UX update, as we call it. So effectively, we'll refresh the website. It's a little bit dated already. We've been doing this now for more than a year. So the first version is a little bit dated. So we'll do a refresh. Hopefully, we'll get a new statistics page that is more informative, gives a little bit more information. We finished an API connection, so the income API, as we call it, that's available to investors. We only have a few one at the moment using it, but for those who would like to do it, then they can of course always connect with us and ask it. So that's interesting. Maybe secondary market is something we want to add. So we have quite attractive long-term loans, for example, from Finto. I think they're offering 12% at the moment, but these are almost 4 to 5 year loans. So effectively, investors generally don't want to park so much money there if they don't have the idea that they can actually exit if they need to. So secondary market is something that will go soon into development. And then we're developing something related to kind of a little bit of a different way of looking at loans, kind of what we call at the moment Income Pro, which would give another piece of the junior share to be investable, a small piece of the junior share to be investable by investors, and then effectively that could carry a much higher yield, because some investors seem to think that it doesn't really matter if you have a security structure in place, you're still kind of carrying a risk against the loan originator operationally. So we're looking at different things, and that's something we've been saying, that is there a way that you could kind of offer significantly higher yields to us? And we're saying, okay, the carrying idea of income is to be safe and to carry this. But maybe if we allow a certain portion of the junior share to be investable, then this is where the loan originators most likely will be happy to pay high double digit returns. So, but these are things that we're exploring at the moment and looking at. But I guess for most of the investors, UX update will be noticeable very soon. We'll update our mobile app, which people have loved so far. We've gotten very good, very good feedback. And then, secondary market.
Awesome. So now, what would be your advice for someone who is really starting in peer-to-peer lending, is watching this interview, wants to start in investing? So what would be the like one piece of advice for really a beginner in the field?
Well, I guess make it clear to you what you're investing in, how loans work. I mean, that's the first thing, right? So we still get a lot of questions, and I'm sure all the other platforms. So how does it actually work to invest in a loan? What does it mean? If it's a 12-month loan, do I get all my money back after 12 months? Or how does it work? So kind of, understand the asset class where you put your money. Then do your due diligence, even if it's a light due diligence, but do it on the platform. Luckily, we don't have so many scams anymore as it used to be. So choose a platform you find comfortable with. I hope, of course, it's income, but if not, then that's fine as well. So do a small due diligence on who's behind it, what people are doing, and then really park the amount of money that you're comfortable with. I wouldn't say, like in cryptos, they say park only the money that you're willing to lose. That's really not the case, in my opinion, in loans. But mark something that you find comfortable to start investing, and then when you understand how things go, then add money and so forth. Yeah, I guess those are the main. That's the way I started.
Yeah, same here. Great. So just to finish, what are the best ways to get more information online about income marketplace and really get started?
Well, of course, I mean, getincome.com. So that's a really good place. We also have a relatively active Telegram group. So if you're using Telegram, I'm there also personally answering to people. So if people have questions, we try to help them there. Our customer care, you can always write there. Oh, and we also have quite a bit of different types of reviews already online. So we've been talking to a lot of people, and in the community, some have written reviews, others haven't. But yeah, by Googling us and on our website, you'll find plenty of information.
All right, awesome. So again, thank you so much for doing this interview. I'm sure people will
Absolutely.
love it.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alright, this is already the end of this interview. I really hope that you enjoyed it. So, as usual, I placed some link just below this video if you are watching the video version, or in the show notes of the podcast if you are listening to this on my podcast. So you will find a link to the platform Income Marketplace directly. You also find a link to my website where you will find a more detailed blog post where I share with you a more detailed review of the platform and also my latest result with the platform. So make sure to check everything out. Also, if you have any questions about this interview or about investing in general, don't hesitate to leave them just below this video or just send me an email if you are listening to the podcast version of this. That being said, thank you again for watching or listening to this interview, and I will see you in the next one.